People, why don't feminists go to the Middle East and protest? Same people. I'm not wearing my MAGA hat in public or talking politics. This is a frustrating thought I had a few years back after observing some things after the last presidential election in the United States of America, where President Donald J. Trump won his first term. And now that we're coming up to this next election here in 2020 for him to win his second term, it's something I could just talk about here quickly. So this is something that I've seen a bit of hypocrisy. Some people look at feminists in the West, especially in the United States of America, and say, women don't really have it hard here. So why are you feeling that you have to actually protest about these things, these actual issues? You feel like you're persecuted. You say, oh, I'm under all this persecution. Look at all this pushback I get. When in general, the society is a lot it's rather welcoming to feminist ideology, to people who are on that spectrum of politics. There's not too many people in general in popular culture who are against this, especially where you see many of the actual very active and vocal feminists, and this is in major metropolitan areas in the United States of America that are mostly politically blue and lean to the left and have a lot of people who actually are supporters, if not identify as feminists themselves. So they say, go to the Middle East and protest, and then see how it is actually there. See that actual danger that you will be there. See if you can have some kind of feminist thing where you just take your top off and go run on stage. Even in Russia they do this. I think they also persecuted a lot more in Russia than there in the United States of America. But regardless, they just say there's actual places where if you are talking about this persecution, if you're talking about you have it so bad here, then go to those places and see how you're treated for doing a even fraction of what you're doing in the United States of America, and that will tell you about what persecution is. And then on the other hand, some of these people, and some of the people that I knew personally in day-to-day life, they were supporters of Donald J. Trump. They had their MAGA hats, they had things like this, they had certain political views, but they would also say, I am not going to speak out about this. I am going to just keep quiet. I'm not going to wear this. I am worried about the actual threat to my actual safety and well-being and livelihood by actually being supportive of Donald Trump or just speaking my political opinions. And I also look at them and I say, well, also look at the Middle East. Look at other countries. Look at other places. Look at China. Look at these other places where people are actually being killed by just voicing their opinions. Somebody goes on a group chat and just posts some video about the leader of that country, and then all of a sudden the police service comes in, some kind of security service comes in and takes their phone and goes through it and says, what groups are you in? Are you moving this? We're putting you in detention. We're holding you this. We're asking you all these questions. That's what people are going through for voicing alternative political opinions to the actual accepted politics. So I ask those people, if you can look at the feminists and say they shouldn't have any actual stance to complain because they have it a lot better than other people do, then what is their stance to complain about what their level of persecution that they're having? And I'm not saying there isn't any persecution, neither towards feminists nor towards people who are supporters of Donald Trump with their MAGA hats. There's definitely many situations where you can go online, you can find it with his cataloged actual occasions where people wearing MAGA hats have been assaulted and attacked. I have seen this, I talked about this previously in a video with Joey Val, who I met when I was in New York City, and he was in a bar and he just got hit in the face with a bottle during some altercation that did involve him actually having the MAGA hat on. There's other situations that you can actually refer to, so I understand that happens. But I'm asking, all Americans, all people in the world in general, but specifically Americans in this situation, whether you're a supporter of Joe Biden, whether you support libertarianism, whether you support Donald J. Trump, whether you support all these other people, what is really keeping you from speaking about politics? Some of the threats that you thought were actually going to happen, say 4 years ago during the last election cycle, that kept you away, or right after, that made you think, okay, I supported, and then now I looked at the reaction, oh, it's horrible, this is dangerous. Are you comfortable with being quiet? Are you comfortable with not being supportive? Do you think not talking about these things is going to make the situation better? Or have you changed your mind and seen some of those problems and threats that I thought were there were actually overblown? And maybe it could benefit me from actually speaking out about some of these things more. Maybe if I had spoken out more before this whole situation happened, then the aftermath wouldn't have been as bad. Maybe some people on the political left, I'm talking specific with the Trump situation, the MAGA hats, if more people had come out and voiced their support for Trump, maybe some people would not be looking at Trump people as these just insane people. Maybe people would understand, oh no, they're actually not as bad as I thought. Or maybe you would have confirmed them, because there are, I'm sure, some people who are supporting Trump for reasons I personally disagree with. Probably one of the major ones would be something like on immigration. We probably disagree greatly with, I probably disagree greatly with the majority of Trump supporters on that. Now, there's many other things I'll disagree with people on, like the topic of this video. Some people are clearly saying there is some level of persecution, some level of oppression if you are a Trump supporter, if you come out for America. They talk about this silent majority. Yeah, we're going to make our voices heard at the ballot box. But as you've seen recently, the ballot box isn't the only place that this culture war is going to go on. All wars have been, are, and will be cultural. I don't see an actual civil war coming out where it's like a hot war, like people think of the old civil wars, or they look at civil wars going on in other countries in the world. Like look at the serious situation in Syria, compared to what's happening in the United States of America. And this is part of American exceptionalism. This is part of a country that has that First Amendment right. People talk about, oh, you're trying to end our First Amendment right. We have to protect these. We're censoring this, censoring that. Meanwhile, we're the silent majority. Well, use that First Amendment right. That is part of the beauty of the United States of America. The fact that you can come out and speak. This cultural war, this cultural civil war is going on. It will continue to be fought, whether or not you vote one way or the other. Whether Trump wins, I still think he's going to win. Whether he loses, even if he does win, it's 4 years. Is it going to be 4 more years of you being quiet? If you support certain things about the United States of America that you feel are at risk, you're just going to say, okay, yeah, Trump will do it for us. Yeah, we'll just trust the politics. We won't actually have these discussions with each other. The same way I look at Black Lives Matter, and I have objections with them, and I say, what is the actual situation here? You're talking about white silence is violence? Maybe some kind of white silence, some groups of white people out there who could speak up against certain things, maybe their lack of speaking up has resulted in some of the violence going on because there's no counter messaging to these things. So where is the empirical evidence that there actually is some kind of systemic or systematic persecution of Trump supporters? What kind of evidence do you have that you personally would be persecuted if you came out and supported something, or just whatever you believe in, whether it's peaceful parenting, whether it's saying we need a smaller government, whether it's saying, oh, we should homeschool, whether it's saying, oh, we need more school. Because people on the political left, the people who are more about more government and things like this and destroying things, they seem to be rather vocal. I am still rather confident this is a minority of people. When you actually come down to discussing actual issues and trying to identify what is what, you'll find a lot of agreement out there. You'll find a lot of people are on your side. You'll find that it's not that bad. Now, it's also a challenge to you yourself. Even you personally, while you're trying to think and say, I'm going to try to find a way to vocalize this and explain this to people. This is one thing that is really valuable, and I think a lot of people are starting to see this. Some people who are parents, or if you've had the experience of teaching something to someone, it's a difference with just learning something and just being able to do something off of actions versus being able to break that thing down, understand it in a certain way, package it, and convey it to somebody else in a means that you think somebody who has never heard of the basic terms in there can actually understand. And sometimes in that process, while you're trying to get to the point where how can I vocalize this thing, how can I break this down and communicate it, you might realize certain things about that thing that, oh, maybe I don't really support this. For me, one thing in particular that I can think of is, okay, just coming out when I was as a believer in God, in the Christian God, I started trying to understand, okay, how could I actually discuss this? Started breaking that down. It's like, okay, I don't really understand that. I don't believe that. There's no actual evidence for this. Why am I actually buying into that? What's the history behind this? When I started looking at things like abortion, I was like, okay, wait. When is it okay? Is it two people? Is it one person? When does life start? So why am I just completely okay? Like anybody should be able to do this, should encourage this. Like should actually look for people who support this. Then actually that doesn't work. When I was looking at peaceful parenting, I'm like, oh wait, why are we hitting kids again? Oh yeah, if society is going to be better if we hit kids, like the reason it's crumbling is because we're not hitting kids. And I look into the actual background, like why would having less violence lead to a less cohesive. Then these things, I'm just saying, some of the things you truly believe in politically, some of the things you truly believe in socially, culturally, that you consider important, I beseech you to not be silent about these things. If there's specific reasons why you feel you can't actually talk about these things, let me know. Hit me up in the comment section. Maybe you feel better sending me an email. I think I'll try to leave an email there. I want to do something where where I am in a position where I can talk about certain things. I understand this isn't the same for everyone. We're individuals. We have different considerations. I was talking to a friend of mine about this recent thing with J.K. Rowling, Gloria Steinem, Steven Pinker, and many other people. Somebody from Vice, and then he got in some issues. He was censured by somebody else at Vice, an editor at Vice. There's, oh, you can't be signing this letter. It was about 150 people who signed this letter against cancel culture. And some people on the political right, some other people who had been persecuted by this cancel culture were kind of like, yeah, this is what you get. This is what you started. But to me, I think that's promising. If you are a believer, if you have been viewing the world in a certain way, and I don't think people are just going out there lying about what they see, they speak out about things that they think are positive. Whatever created this cancel culture type of mob and people who go out and literally say, I'm going to contact the person who employed you. I need to find your information so I can contact the person who employed you because you personally said something that I don't like. I'm not completely against that. I am against how uneven it's actually held because some things are accepted, some things aren't. But if your employer feels the need to fire you off of this, I think you should go to find a different employer. I would prefer a world where employers just came out and said, we are just about diversity hiring. Or another business comes and says, we're exactly like that business, except we don't care about diversity hiring. And then see who goes to what place. I'm not against discrimination. You should be able to discriminate. You should be able to discriminate whether you continue listening to this video. I shouldn't be able to force you to listen to this video. I shouldn't be able to force you to donate. I shouldn't be able to say that, oh, you need to buy some t-shirts? Well, I have some t-shirts in my store, so you have to buy my t-shirts. I shouldn't say, oh, you want some art done? Oh, I look at the art I can draw like it's on the screen. You have to buy my stuff. You have to actually come and deal with me. No, that's negative. So I don't care if some of these people are now taking notice to the to the cancel culture thing, and now they're speaking up after people have been talking about it for a while. Because other people have been talking. I've been aware of this kind of practice for a while. Oh, it's not going on. People talk, oh, Antifa doesn't really exist. I mean, we understand these things are not really the way reality is. But better late than never. Even if it's the Seattle mayor, in part, decided to shut down CHOP once they actually came to protest at her house. I don't care. She still actually did. I would prefer it to happen earlier, but better late than never. And this is the same thing I'm telling you out there. You silent majority, supposed silent majority. Better late than never. And I'm not saying that, oh, it's too late now, or oh, if you don't speak in the next 4 years, or if Trump loses, it's too late. You're all of a sudden going to have the Chinese Communist Party level sorts of shutting out. No, I don't think things are going to transfer that fast. Even if you have a situation where something like that comes in, I think there's enough basis in United States of America and the world in general that it's moving towards liberty. Some of these things just literally cannot work. There's certain policies and certain things that some of these people are actually advocating for, these authoritarians, just cannot work. Society just crumbles after that. There's actually too much to lose, too much that they actually like to lose. I saw another post, a friend of mine said that posted someone, a relative of theirs, was saying there's something wrong with America with all the individualism. I'm like, can this person actually define individualism? Because what are they talking about? And I used to think this whole thing of identifying, oh, as an X, as a Y, as a Z, I used to think it was some kind of thing where they were identifying as is getting to the point where it's mostly important who you personally identify as versus what other people identify you as. But I started thinking about it, and it's more of a collective thing. They want to feel a part of a collective. It's not about I identify as this by myself, but it's I identify as this. So since I'm this, I've also accepted and can take on the characteristics of this other collective. So it's more like you can choose. Even in America, the collectivism is more individualist than it is in other places. And this is something that is very unique. And I think Americans in general, I'm talking to you right now, you are in a unique position where I think you need to take advantage of this and speak out and have conversations. I'll leave that link to the email. Let me know in the comment section. I was thinking of doing some kind of system where I want to have more conversations. I want to have more talks with people about different topics. I think politics is involved everywhere. I don't think people are going to be able to hide away from politics, and I think that's a positive thing. You look at countries that have less freedom, less liberty, less success, they speak about politics less. It's just more taboo of a thing. You look at the places where they have more of that, and they speak about those things more. Because politics is going to be involved in your life whether you speak about it or not. And I think by having those discussions at that grassroots level, grassroots term is an odd thing, but at that in-person level, is what is going to actually improve the situation for everyone. Politics just moves with what the actual people are doing. They're not leaders. These aren't leaders. These aren't public servants. These are public sycophants. They just go through the motions to get the votes, to keep in power. That's all that's going on. So those changes actually need to be done by you, the people. I had that one video where Be the People, where I took the Declaration of Independence and turned it around to a Declaration of Dependence. And the politicians are dependent on you. They're dependent on your acquiescence. And this isn't equally done all across the board. In the past, it was a lot worse in every country in the world, pretty much. There's places right now that are a lot worse. There's ways it can get a lot worse. There's certain people who still get disappeared for speaking out. But you personally, are you going to get disappeared? Right now, a lot of people lost work due to this pandemic. A lot of people have taken a pause or their work has changed. And this was something where it was out of your hands pretty much. This was just some people. Who's deciding this? Who decided whether you can have this job or not? Who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide if you have more work in the future? But it's just a pause. It's changed things. It's time to reset and rethink how we're going to go forward as a human species, as Earthlings, upgrade to this next level. And I think that is going to involve more conversation. I think a lot of places are going to get more insular for a while as we reset and recover from this. And then now as we reconnect, I think we need to connect in more equitable and effective ways. There's one video I went back and listened to that I'm going to leave a link to here. It's called Human Information Vectors, How Acquired Ignorance Destruction Systems Will Save Our World. And I'm going to try to take the platform that I have, being in this unique position, not being like the J.K. Rowlings and those people who are just ingrained in some kind of thought where it takes them some time. If you're truly a believer in something, you have invested a lot of time, the friends around you. Let's say you're a preacher and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I don't believe in this God anymore, but your entire family is within that church, within that community, your family members believe, people around you. Chances are you might start asking some questions here and there, but you won't just come out and say, no, we don't believe that. You can't just come out and say we can't talk about these things. But you may be able to have a conversation with somebody about something to kind of elucidate with that. That's why I was thinking with the J.K. Rowling and these people, that is a step. Just making these baby steps compared to the mentality that they're coming from, the language, the way they see the world, that is a massive step. That might be something that gets somebody on that side of the aisle to think, wait, if they're actually saying something, maybe the people on the right who are just not these characters are saying something. Now I'm looking at my position. I don't really have that kind of investment where I'm like, oh, my job depends on this. My friends depend on this. I have a position where I think I can talk about certain topics, but I think it would be beneficial to have some of your support out there. If you're out there in a position where you feel there's some things you want to talk about, but you can't do it openly, I'm going to try to provide ways and reach out to actually have conversations with you directly or find ways to read your messages out there. I'd like to get more content where I'm talking to people from their point of view, trying to elucidate things that I might not be able to see and understand, but may be able to actually broadcast out there. I think that is a positive thing. Being that human information vector, just help that information go along to somebody else and reduce the ignorance that some people have about certain topics. So with that, I'm going to talk about that more here. Probably by August, I want to have something set up and ready with that. Continue the conversation series where I talk to people about different topics. And I want to create something where maybe have these animated characters or some kind of avatars where people can speak through the avatars and you can get other people to actually host, to actually record it so it's not just always my voice. People may get tired of it. Or just set up a system where other people can have other people talk about certain things in certain ways. Because I could be wrong, but I've looked at this for a while, and I think that is what is going to save this world and make it a better place for all of us. So that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe. Should be links to the merchandise store below where you can get different things. Let me know what you think. This is, to me, is a very important thing. If you've been quiet, are you going to be more quiet over the next 4 years? Did you have some things confirmed about, yeah, it's good that you were quiet? Do you have some regrets to things that you think maybe you should have talked about this earlier? Have you found yourself being swayed one way or the other from hearing from somebody who you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect them to actually say something? Do you have any personal experiences where you were afraid to speak up and you finally did? And you were like, oh, wow, this is actually a lot better now. So let me know about that. Till next time, appreciate your time. Goodbye.
Boo this building!
No stars. No stars.